Hello and welcome everyone to the Moakley Park Virtual Open House. It looks like we have quite a few people here tonight already signed in, around 86 people. So that's exciting. It looks like there's kind of more filtering in, so welcome. This is the first in a series of community events happening in the next month for the Moakley Park project. My name is Allison Perlman, and I'm the project manager with the Boston Parks and Recreation Department. And I'm the project manager for Moakley Park. Before we jump in into our presentation, I'd like to go over a few kind of how-tos and what to expect tonight, because this is our first meeting in Zoom since last year. So if you could advance the slide. Great. So interpretation. We're often able to offer interpretation and translation of our materials. Tonight, no one has requested interpretation, so this meeting will only be in English. However, for future engagement, please know we're really eager to hear all voices and are able to offer interpretation upon request. So just please reach out to me. My email is on the bottom of this slide. And for those joining us by phone, my email is Allison, Allison.Perlman, Perlman, @boston.gov. Tonight's meeting is being recorded and will be available on the project website within a week. I want to acknowledge those who were able to make this meeting tonight. Thank you so much for your time. I recognize that finding time to attend community meetings is hard, and now with COVID, many of us are facing even more challenges. This plan is very much a community-driven process, and so please share what you learned tonight and direct your neighbors and friends and family to our website where they can view this recorded meeting when their time, when their schedule allows. So, so what do we have in store for you tonight and through November? We are kicking off our Moakley Talk series with a park plan overview. This virtual open house will be a little different from our typical open house that you may have attended previously. Just due to the size of the meeting online, we're going to have to do it in a webinar style presentation by our design team, and then followed by a question and answer discussion with you. This is different from our past. So before, we would come in and have an open house where we would present, and then we would break out into different focus stations so that we could have a more personal conversation with you. And while tonight we're really going to be focusing on the question and answer discussion, following this event, we're going to have 3 other opportunities for a more informal conversation with you all. So the first one will be November 10th, which is the sports and active recreation. That will be followed by the community and play on November 17th. And then the public health and the environment on November 24th. So this talk series will be more open format, giving us the opportunity to see everyone and kind of dive down into the deeper details aspects of what you're really interested in. But tonight it's going to be more of the presentation and the question and answer. So I really appreciate you trying these new formats with us. We've done several meetings previously on other projects, but we're still learning, and so we're always welcoming feedback on the process. So the next slide on how to engage. Great. So tonight, as I said, it's going to be a question and answer discussion after the presentation. We'll end at 7:30. I'd like to note that obviously you can see us, but we cannot see you. We would love, oh, hello. Okay, love you. Go. This is what we're dealing with, right? We're trying to manage work and managing family. So thank you for the interruption. Yes, so just because we can't see you doesn't mean that we don't want to hear what you have to say to us. So if you are on your computer or tablet, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a question and answer. If you can send us your questions that way, then we can start to grab them. And then at the end, the moderator can ask your questions and you can get answers with those. If you could include your name and your neighborhood with your question, that'd be really helpful to us. And for those of you who are on the phone, you can just go ahead and text me. You can text my phone number, which is 617-799-8743. And we will make sure to get your question answered as well. So hopefully that takes care of all the housekeeping type information, and we can jump into the design team. Great. So tonight we are joined by an exceptional team, both from the parks and from our design consultants. So from the Parks Department, we have Commissioner Woods, we have Chief Landscape Architect Liza Meyer, Outreach Coordinator Christine Brando. From our design team, we have Chris Reed, Amy Whitesides, and Marion Braco from Stas Landscape Urbanism, and Sherry Ruane and Julie Eaton from Weston Sampson. We are really fortunate tonight to have Commissioner Woods join us by Zoom, and Ryan was born and raised in Savin Hill and is really a true Parkie, holding many positions within the department since 2007, and lives right next door to a Dorchester Park. Commissioner Woods has a strong focus on operational excellence that really matters to people's quality of life. He grounds his work in improving access, equity, and building community relationships. So welcome, Commissioner Woods.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you to the whole team that has worked hard on this project from at least 2015, if not earlier, on this exceptional project. So thank you, everyone. My name is Ryan Woods, born and raised here in Dorchester and played many years of Mayor's Cup and other sports at Moakley Park. So consider this to be one of my close neighborhood parks. We're really excited about this project. As I mentioned, we started this back in 2015 when we were looking at certain fixes that need to be made at the park, whether they were Band-Aid fixes that could be quickly fixed. And then looking at all the work it needed, we really decided to take a more comprehensive approach. You all saw in 2019, we released the vision plan. And since then, we've listened, we've learned, and we took the feedback to come up with an improved plan. We've moved some fields and amenities based on community feedback. And we came up with this Moakley Park preliminary design. We were able to meet with elected officials, neighborhood sports groups, the South Boston nonprofits, residents, and even went on a tour, having events in the park, going to the South Boston Street Festival, Unity Day, anything that was held surrounding, we were there to try to get the word out about the plan for Moakley Park. The plan you're going to see tonight is a very high-level design. Everything has landed in its positioning for a reason. It's all done in a very thoughtful manner. The design is based on access, grading, utilities, tree retainment, adjacent streets, and there are some small changes that can be made to ensure the design continues to improve. We'll continue to come back to the community as the design is prioritized into phases based on funding. So as the funding comes in, it may be 2 phases, it could be 5 phases, but this is something that we're going to work through the community on every single phase to make sure we get the design right. And that's when we can look at the more finite details of the park, whether it's the color, the playground equipment, specialty features, cement pads, fencing, etc. That's what we're going to get into, those nitty-gritty details when we go into that phasing. Like I said, tonight is more the high-level design of the park. You'll notice in the slides that Day Boulevard exists in the design. We will continue to advocate for safe and better access, working with our state partners with DCR and MassDOT as they work on any future designs for that roadway. We want this road to be a seam instead of a barrier, and we promise to work with our state partners for the best solutions along the way. I want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your advocacy, your input, and your collaboration as we make these much needed improvements to the gem that is Moakley Park in South Boston. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Woods. Thank you, Allison. Hi, folks. Good evening to all of you. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Reed. I'm the guy with my hands in the air in the bottom left. It's been a great pleasure to work with many of you over the last few years and to work with this team to really develop a project that's exciting, that continues to evolve with your input, and is now at a point where we're excited to share some of that development with you. We'll give a little bit of high-level overview, remind you where we were with. We'll show you new aspects of the new design, and then talk about some upcoming outreach events. At the end of the presentations, we'll also have a Q&A session for you to ask questions. All right, the schedule, where are we? So as you remember, we began this process as a vision plan process back in 2018. That process went on for about a year and a half. About mid-2019, the technical team especially worked on the preliminary resilience design. So here we were looking at a lot of the resilience factors and technical aspects of the project. What does it mean to develop a berm that allows for coastal flood protection? How do we deal with stormwater inundation, which we see almost every storm these days, et cetera, et cetera. So there was a lot of technical investigation going on then. And then we're really right at the beginning of schematic design, which will last for the next 8 to 10 months. As we move forward in the coming months, we'll be talking about governance development and partnership building, particularly looking towards longer-term operations and maintenance of the park. And then we'll also be getting into construction documentation. Now, along the way, we'll be wanting to hear from you at a number of different points in the process. Allison already outlined the October and November dates where we'll be reviewing with you in detail some of what you'll be seeing tonight. As we begin to make refinements, we'll come back to you in the spring to show you, here's what we heard, here's how the design is continuing to evolve. And then even as we start construction documentation, there'll be a number of key moments where we have open houses, hopefully in person by that point, where you can see how the design is evolving and give us continuing input from there. Marin's going to help me out, MC some of the questions as we go along. There will be moments where we ask you to weigh in. So this is the first of those. Let's go.
Yeah, so the first question for you tonight is just how many of you have previously attended a Moakley Park engagement event? That could be something from the vision plan, one of the open houses. Maybe you talked to one of us at a table at one of the festivals at Moakley Park, anything like that in the last couple of years. Just trying to get a sense here of who's new and who's coming back for more information.
Great.
Okay, it looks like only 27% or 35%, I see, have been here before. So we've got a lot of new people. That's really exciting. Thank you guys for coming. And then second question, we want to know where you're calling from. So you can fill out the poll, this next poll, based on your neighborhood.
This is great. So as expected, we have a lot from South Boston, a lot from Dorchester, and scatterings of folks from all across the city. So welcome to everybody. Great to have you here. Great. Okay, given that there are a number of newcomers, we'll start with a quick overview of the 2018 vision plan. We'll talk to you about some of what we've been hearing from you during the community feedback process. and talk a little bit about technical analysis before we get into the new design. So this was the 2018 vision plan. It imagined a new Moakley Park with 4 major rooms for sports and athletics. The cursor's pointing to each of those. It involved flood control measures to protect the park from coastal inundation. It involved some waterfront activities along Day Boulevard, and it also included a cluster of community spaces, sports spaces and sports courts and play spaces right at the northwest corner, Preble Circle corner of the park. As part of that plan, many of you met us at the Tierney Learning Center twice with open houses. And of course, we had a full Saturday on site in the park with engagement activities and a whole series of different kinds of activities and events that allowed people to maybe experience the park differently. Activities that were set up both on the beach and within the park, food, movie night, which kind of capped the day, and a whole series of other kinds of activities. We've continued that. These are all, of course, pre-COVID, but in 2019, we're able to attend Unity Day at Old Colony, the South Boston Street Festival. We had another event in January of 2020, Winter Warmer in the park itself. And then we also had the opportunity to meet with seniors in South Boston just before COVID shut most of us down. We've still continued to interact with people. We've had a number of surveys going out there in digital format. Almost 1,000 surveys have been completed to date, and total between the surveys and the number of people attending open house and all those other events, we project that we've interacted with 22,000 people over the course of the project, which is really fantastic. And you can see most of them, again, are concentrated in South Boston and Dorchester, but people have been coming from all the shaded areas as far away as Cambridge, Somerville, even down to Quincy. 61% of respondents visit the park at least once a month. The team has also been doing extensive technical analysis. So this is where we're trying to figure out what's going on with the park and with some of the utilities around it. I'm going to ask Julie Eaton, our engineer, to speak for a few minutes about some of the team's technical work.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. My name is Julie. I'm with Weston & Sampson. I'm the lead resiliency engineer. We came to support STOS in the preliminary resilience design scope of the phases of the projects. And what we really wanted to start with our technical analysis was really understanding what are the existing conditions on the site. So looking at what that means from geotechnical, environmental, stormwater, groundwater survey. And so that was really the first part of this preliminary resilience design project, was looking at those technical analysis. As part of that, we completed a subsurface program through the park to really see what was below the surface at Moakley Park. So we did a series of borings, test pits, and probes throughout the park to get snapshots of what the ground conditions looked like. And what we found is that they were really quite variable on the site. So we saw mostly shallow groundwater on the site, and we saw ranging degrees of fill. The fill included some undocumented non-engineer fill that had been filled there over the years, as well as harbor dredged material, which is what we expected to see based on the history of the site. Underlying the fill, we saw either organics or sand as the native material that was there, which we again expected to see based on the history of the site being a salt marsh and beachy area. We then encountered Boston blue clay, which some of you may be familiar with as sort of a geological history of Boston, is that we have our own special blue clay that we see in most areas of Boston. And then we encountered bedrock. What was interesting is that we saw bedrock ranging anywhere between 67 feet below ground surface all the way to 224 feet below ground surface. So part of this initial examination was to really understand what those conditions are on the site and what they mean for design. So that helped us really look at the vision plan that was established in 2018 with the alignment, and as well as not just the soil conditions, but what also is below ground, our existing utilities. And there's major Boston water and sewer and MWRA infrastructure that is adjacent to the park or goes through the park. So really understanding where those overlaps lie and where the fill had been proposed for the flood management alignment. Part of these considerations is managing the existing challenges with the soil conditions on the site, the fill, the organics, the clay, and really how should we be reevaluating the flood management alignment in width, in height, in alignment, to mitigate some of those challenges and protect that existing infrastructure and work with our partners, local partners at Boston Water and Sewer and MWRA to make sure that we're protecting their infrastructure. So part of that include a revised alignment. We're still tying into existing grades and also looking at what are the heights that we need for flood protection, and are there lower heights that can provide flood risk reduction for different elements of the site, so different heights of barriers. So you can see that we have it tying into the existing grades. These analyses are continuing to be advanced with geotechnical and structural considerations as the project advances too.
Great, thanks, Julie. This has been really important work for us. As Julie explained, this barrier moved back from the beach side, in part to respond to some of those underlying utilities there. What it gave us is a little bit more space between that flood protection berm and Day Boulevard, so that we have a little bit more waterside park, if you will, than we had before. So that's been really helpful. Great. So with that, what I want to do next is talk to you really about what we've been doing most recently, what we heard from you, how that has then informed the project goals and the programming for the park. And then we'll give you a sneak peek into the park design itself as it's been refined and how that program has really been rethought and redistributed throughout. Okay, what we heard. This is information coming directly from you all. So thanks for that. What were your two top favorite activities in Moakley Park right now? Walking, number one. Sports, unsurprisingly, number two. Playground and kids activities, and relaxing. Much of that reflects the types of programs and activities that are available. Typically in an urban park of this scale, we'd probably anticipate seeing more spaces for relaxing and all that. But in this case, that's not currently how the park's being used. Second question, what are your top two concerns for Moakley Park right now? First, poor lighting. This, of course, goes hand in hand with safety concerns, and we've heard you loud and clear on that, and you'll be seeing how we have started to address that. Close second, flooded fields after rain. One of the first things we need to do with some of those existing athletic facilities is really upgrade the quality of them so that they're not flooded out and can be used more regularly. Third, we heard concerns about poor access and poor circulation. So how can we better improve the crossings to the park and then circulation throughout the park so more people can be there? And fourth, concerns about coastal flooding, which of course the park and the berm will begin to address as well. Then we asked you, okay, if you think forward, what are the 5 future improvements that you would most enjoy seeing in Moakley Park going forward? And you can see we got a lot of great answers. The top 4 are really almost a dead heat. So seasonal events, things that happen in the summer, in the fall, spring, winter, so that there's year-round activity. Second, cultural events and music events. Can't we have more things that draw more people on a regular basis that allow for more community interaction and celebration? Third, we heard a lot about food, cafe opportunities, food trucks. We heard picnics. Can't we have more places to picnic and just enjoy food so that we can have lunch, have dinner, and really extend our stay in Moakley Park? Fourth, playing sports using improved facilities, so upgrades to facilities, better lighting, better spectator facilities. And then fifth, more exercising jogging trails throughout the park so that there are more experiences, more ways to move through the park. In addition to that, we heard other recommendations and thoughts. One of the things we heard is in the vision plan, we had proposed moving the football field and the track to the northern part of the park, but we heard, you know what, maybe that's not such a good idea. We really needed it closer to the T-stops. We've heard a lot of support for activities for seniors and for people with cognitive issues, so things like shuffleboard or bocce or sensory gardens. We've heard, again, ideas about building better baseball fields, right? More benches so that we can sit and hang out. And we generally heard more things for people to do within the park, more activity areas scattered around the park. All of that input's been super helpful for us, and with the Parks Department staff, has helped us really develop a series of project goals for the park. So as we move forward, Moakley Park will first be a park that's about recreation and play, fostering highly engaging and active landscapes with high quality sports fields, multifunctional facilities, and dynamic play environments, importantly scattered throughout the park. Second, public health and community well-being. How do we develop the park as a community-centered program or set of programs that will strengthen physical wellness, environmental health, and social connection by having safe, walkable connections to the park and to the beach, spaces for large and small community gathering, and amenities that encourage active lifestyles. Third, resiliency in the environment. How do we create a safe and climate resilient park in multiple ways, dealing with coastal and stormwater flooding management for current and future conditions, dealing with the urban heat island effect. In the middle of summer, it's really hot out there because there aren't that many trees. So we want to increase tree canopy and increase biodiversity. That means just a healthier ecosystem and environment. And finally, how do we build in sustainable practices in operations and design and access? Fourth, and really something that is broad reaching, inclusion and access. How do we provide safe and equitable access to open space, to Boston's waterfront, to community resources, athletics, and events for all ages, all abilities, and all backgrounds. So it's really the four pillars that we're building this park around. And this is the revised plan. This is an overview looking out to Boston Harbor. Preble Circle is here in the foreground, K Circle down a ways, and then continuation along the South Boston waterfront. You'll notice we still have 4 primary rooms for sporting events at the heart of the park, although we've switched some things around, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Those sport fields are surrounded by multiple pathways and trees and other activities that we've packed in there. What you'll see in a few moments too is the way in which we've developed a much more active edge to the park so that there's opportunities to do things as soon as you cross into the park. And then, as I mentioned before, an expanded coastal part of the park between that flood berm and Day Boulevard for bird watching and other kinds of activities that get you that much closer to the beach. All right, I'm going to go through the program bit by bit, and this is something that we'll look at in overview tonight, and then in the subsequent open house meetings, we'll have the opportunity to get to in much more detail. Starting with the northern part of the site, regulation, high quality baseball field. So this is one of the changes where that has changed place with the stadium, the football field, and the track and field. That will remain in place down at the southern end, surrounded by new spectator seating or enhanced spectator seating. At the center of the park, Little League and softball diamonds arranged in a clover leaf with basketball courts right along the edge of the park. A cluster of soccer and multi-use fields with basketball and tennis courts, again at the center of the park here. And then that baseball field, the street hockey, and a new multi-use field on the beach side, closer to Day Boulevard, that allows for informal and family play there. Play and different kinds of play was really important. It's something that we heard over and over again, and the idea that it be scattered throughout the park was important. And so here you have a whole series of small and large play facilities, water play, active play, right again at the edge of the park, sport courts, quieter leisure play for elders, basketball and fitness areas, hills and climbing areas for active play, a skate park down on the southern end near the state police barracks, nature-based play, informal play, just hanging out on slopes, an area for swings, water play again, closer to the waterfront, a big area in the center of the park for creative play, and again, additional areas for flexible and nature-based play along Day Boulevard. Events and programmings. These are spaces that can host some of those year-round events and also some of those music and cultural events. Importantly, up at Preble Circle, a place for smaller scale community-oriented markets and festivals with a little shade pavilion there. Additional community events being able to be hosted on those flexible fields, soccer fields, as well as closer to the waterfront. A new waterfront amphitheater and plaza that can host performances and festivals. A building in between the Little League fields and the stadium that can host indoor events. And then larger outdoor events at a refurbished Saunders Stadium at the southern end of the park. And then community and gathering spaces, again, located all throughout the park so that there are different areas that people can go to at different times of day for different kinds of activities. Starting here again with the community building, a new community building with community spaces and new space for the OAKLEY daycare right at the north end of the park. We've got spectator areas around each of the sports fields. We've got a lot of waterfront and picnic and barbecue spaces along Day Boulevard. Again, the waterfront amphitheater, shaded gathering areas so that the parents of kids who are out there playing in the hot sun can at least have a little bit of relief from the sun. A picnic plaza, rooftop hangouts, more shaded gathering areas, really scattered throughout. And then importantly, landscape and ecological spaces. Right now, we're proposing to add over 500 new trees to the park, which will really be important in providing shade and reducing the urban heat island effect. A lot of new stormwater marshes, nature walks, nature trails, places particularly along the coastal edge near Day Boulevard for bird watching, perhaps. More woodland spaces on the interior with high canopy trees that you can see under, stormwater meadows, orchards, gardens, et cetera, et cetera. So really having this very active park, but also having these really beautiful landscape spaces that allow for shade and biodiversity and places for people. Importantly, too, a whole number of new building facilities and parking. So again, starting with that community building with restrooms. We've heard a lot from people needing restrooms scattered throughout the park. I'm with you on that front. So we've got a new community building here with restrooms, shelter, operations and maintenance. This is full-time on-site operations and maintenance staff, so that there are always people at the park to help you, but also that will be taking care of the park. A number of picnic shelters, again, for additional shade. Sports headquarters building, kind of like you know, the McDonough Fieldhouse back in the day, but this time located centrally and updated so that it has the best facilities and really is at that center of the park. A destination building that overlooks the stadium, overlooks the Little League fields, and has views out to the water. It can be used for events and food. And then at the southern end, again, an info center, restroom building, and areas for sport equipment storage located throughout. Importantly, we're also doubling the amount of parking within the park and locating them at key places that are make those sports fields and some of those other destinations accessible. So this one over here near the stadium and the Little League fields is really in the same location as the existing one. We're adding a new one at the community building right near to the cluster of soccer fields. We're adding parking up at the north near to the baseball, and then another one down off of Day Boulevard that gives you, again, access both to the stadium, to that event destination building, and the Little League fields. And of course, the existing parking that happens along Day Boulevard. And finally, and importantly, new lighting throughout the park that really extends the hours of the park, allows more people to be in the park later at night, and really creates some wonderful safety factors as well. All the fields will be illuminated at night. So you'll have very bright areas at the center of the park, beckoning people to come on in. The edge of the park around those existing neighborhoods will have bright lighting as well for all the events and activities. All the pathways through the park and all those program and destination spaces in the park will also be illuminated. And so the idea here is to make a park that's more accessible to more people for more times of day, to attract more people, which helps with safety, but also just to provide lighting as a safety measure in and of itself. And then it all comes together in this summary plan. Again, really important to understand that some of the bones of the park remain in place, like we talked about for the vision plan in 2018, these 4 major sports rooms at the heart of the park, but we've been able to tuck in a whole lot more program and activity elements based on the feedback that you've been giving us, a much more active city edge, more spaces and destinations throughout the park, and a much more robust waterfront edge to the park as well. Again, this is the big overview for the park. And importantly, again, you can see that flood control. The black dashed line was the old flood control from the 2018 plan. And what you're seeing in red is the new, more refined economical flood management that's really part of, integrated as part of the hills and slopes within the park itself. All right, that's the park, and I'll turn it over to Maren for a question or two here.
So we want to know from you now, based on this great overview that Chris just provided, which programs are you most excited about in the park here?
And it's important to be able to scroll up and down. I think what, Marion, there are about 10 different things listed there.
Looks like we have a lot of interest in improved sports fields.
That's great. Seeing a lot of
markets and events. Yeah.
Amphitheater and gathering spaces. That's great. Gardens, flood management. This is great. We'll give you a few more minutes. This one's multiple choice, so you can add in as many as you want. Terrific. Great. All right. Well, thanks. That's really helpful. And what we're seeing is no strong preference for just one thing. We're seeing a lot of preferences for a lot of different kinds of activities. And that kind of marries up with some of the feedback you've already been giving us, which is terrific. So thanks. Okay, I want to go into a little bit more detail with you. And so we'll now break the park down geographically, and we can look at each of the different pieces in a little bit more detail. We're first going to look at what we're calling the city edge, so that highly programmed area all along the west and north sides of the park. And then we'll have some questions. We'll then move from there into what we're calling the crest and core, the center of the park, the crest being the crest of the flood berm there. And then finally, we'll look at the coastal park in a bit more detail as well. But let's start with the city edge. So again, the city edge, the whole idea here is that you have a whole series of activity areas that are available to you as soon as you step foot into the park. You don't have to go very far to be able to have new experiences and different kinds of activities. We know that sometimes you've only got a half hour or an hour, and with your kid, you really want to go to the first available thing, and that's part of the idea here. Or maybe you just don't want to walk too far into the park. So with the city edge, we've concentrated a whole series of different activities along a walking path and running path that really lines Old Colony and Columbia Road on the west side and the north side. Everything from gardens and areas to view baseball fields, to street hockey and terrace seating for hanging out, to an event and market space at Preble, picnic areas, this new community building and water play, leisure play and water gardens, a lot of sitting areas, basketball and fitness clusters, interactive play, hills for play, and then culminating down south in a skate park. Now, importantly, having these things directly accessible to the immediately adjacent neighborhoods is really, really important. So you see Mary Ellen McCormick here, Old Colony here. You see access from the Harbor Walk and from other parts of Southie here as well. And the whole idea is as soon as you cross the street, there are a series of different activity areas. Some of those we're aiming at small kids. So some of the smaller play areas, for instance, and the interactive water features. Some we're aiming at older kids, like street hockey and places to hang out and basketball. Some we're really aiming at everybody, like the market and event space where you might have a farmer's market or a cultural festival. And then some of it too, we're aiming at elders. So things like leisure play, water gardens, sitting areas, areas where you can view some of the sports activities. Now, these images give you a sense of the character and some of the activities that might go within the space as well. Again, places for fitness, places for walking and biking, lots of places for just sitting and hanging out, places for picnicking, places for running and jogging and biking, all underneath a really tall canopy of trees so that it's shaded. It's really, really nice to be there and very elegant. We're thinking of very tall canopy trees like you see along Comm Ave in Boston. And importantly, this was one of the important feedback elements and changes that we've made. Remember, in the old vision plan, we had a lot of these activities really clustered at one corner of the park. And what we heard was, look, we'd rather have them spread out. They really need to be accessible to more people and to have more of them throughout the park. And so we've really kind of taken what was that one cluster and distributed it along the full edge. And then we've added in other things as well, all under this tall canopy of trees. So this is a view now looking north. Old Colony is on the left, and Mary Ellen McCormick is just behind those trees on the left. So we have a raised bicycle path here. We have a tree-lined community path with lots of benches for seating and lots of wide areas for walking. A running track that actually goes all the way around the park. Areas for plaza seating, and then flexible program spaces, which might have gardens or basketball courts or water gardens or game tables, or even additional ideas that we'll get into in the coming weeks with you. From there, you can see how close it is to some of the new planted areas and some of the new ball fields. So the idea is to create this very active edge with layered activities that bring you directly into the park. All right, Maren.
So we're going to have this question at the end of each of these three sections. What do you like most about the city edge?
So again, here we have about 10 different potential answers. You can select all that apply. Getting a lot of good varied responses. What are you seeing, Maren?
A lot of people like the gardens, additional seating, markets and events again.
Play areas, basketball, fitness, more seating.
I see we have some skaters here too. We've got a few of those consistently being responded to.
Excellent. And again, in the coming weeks, we'll be able to go into more detail on some of these elements. Terrific. All right. Great, thanks. Okay, the next section, the core and the crest. The core of the park, the center of the park, and then the crest. You can see in yellow where that flood protection berm is. So that's integrated hills within the landscape. So again, you've got the 4 athletic rooms, this beautiful new baseball field at the north end of the park with the operations and maintenance building and some great new spectator areas. You've got the soccer and multi-use field surrounded by basketball and tennis courts and a big creative play area. You've got the sports headquarters right at the center of the park. You've got those little league and softball fields, again, with an events buildings and spectator areas, in this very efficient cloverleaf, so you can actually watch multiple games at the same time. And then to the south, a refurbished Saunders Stadium with football, multi-use field, the track, and expanded viewing and lawn areas for hanging out and also for performances. You can also see the number of different pathways here. So we wanted to make a whole series of different walking and running trails that would give you an almost endless selection of paths through the park and different routes that you could take as you were experiencing the park. Now, what's that look like? It's a whole combination of things like organized sports activities, right? Daytime sports activities, nighttime sports activities, high quality fields that don't flood, places for pickup games with basketball and lots of different kinds of walking and running trails throughout the different landscape areas within the park. You've also got tucked in here around other spaces, right? Shaded areas for sitting and picnicking and watching the games. Other play spaces for community gathering and play, for play of all ages and all abilities. And also places where other kinds of gatherings can happen. So regular movie nights during the summer, or areas that can host different kinds of performances and events. Again, this was from the 2018 vision plan, again noting how the stadium at the time at the north was too far, so we've switched that around. And what you have now in the new updated plan, you've got baseball, again, those soccer fields, and you can see the activity areas that surround it. The Little League fields and the stadium all have great new spectator areas, lots of pathways. So even if you're not there to attend a game, you can actually see the games that are happening in progress, and that'll be really exciting. And then this is a view of the refurbished Saunders Stadium, looking out to the harbor. Here we retain some of that existing seating and upgrade it so that it's nicer quality, repair it. We rotate the football field and the track so that it's parallel with the west side seating. You might know that this was originally set up as a baseball field. And what we wanted to create was a better spectator experience here by bringing the field closer and orienting it properly. We then create new seating terraces on the east side and the south side. And then a series of lawn areas behind the seating. Again, one on the east side, one on the west side, that will allow for people to picnic and hang out casually to watch the games. They're great for sunbathing. You know, so much fitness activity happens when you're not having organized sports activities. So being able to hang out and watch those activities is really, really important. And hopefully these will also allow for that stadium to be used for larger scale movie nights or performances and events. And with some of the refurbished seating, you're going to get some great views then to the beach and to the harbor as well. So we're really excited about how we might upgrade the quality of experience here at Saunders Stadium. Okay, Maren.
All right, what do you like most about the crest and core?
Again, here you've got about 8 different offerings. Select any number of them.
A lot of soccer multi-use fields. Gardens, again, are coming up pretty popular.
The viewing lawns, which is great. Excellent. Okay, great, thank you. And then,
so it looks like
go ahead.
garden is the number. Yeah, just want to go through, make sure we chat about the results of the poll here for a moment. Garden again is coming up really popular, 47%, followed pretty closely behind with the athletics events and viewing lawn and the stadium, and the soccer and multi-use are all pretty close there.
Terrific. Okay, and then the last area of the park, the coastal park. Again, we have an expanded area because we've moved the flood berm back a little bit. And what the coastal park is about is really starting to feel like you're really at the seaside. So coastal landscapes, coastal marshes, walking trails, boardwalks, a new multi-use field and family play area right close to the waterfront here. This again, coming from the feedback that you've given us. A number of different picnic and barbecue areas nestled within these landscapes. A new central waterfront plaza and amphitheater with interactive water play, located almost directly across from the existing bathhouse and beach house there, but that opens with views to the water. And then some additional nature walks, outdoor classrooms, and additional landscape areas to the south. Bird watching is going to be popular here. Just being able to get out into a rich coastal landscape where you're still feeling like you're surrounded by activity. And so the character is really this combination of social areas and more natural areas. So barbecue and picnic areas, places for spreading a blanket out on the lawn, for throwing a frisbee, for flying a kite, interactive water element, a kind of garden amphitheater, if you will, for different kinds of activities, and lots of places for bird watching and simply just enjoying nature on the waterfront there. This is a view looking south. Carson Beach here is on the left. Day Boulevard here is open, as you can see. And then within the park, we've got the blue line is the running track that goes all the way around the park. And then here in the foreground are some of those coastal landscapes and boardwalk areas with clusters of trees and bird habitat, a number of picnic areas overlooking the family lawn, additional picnic areas, and this is the waterfront amphitheater I'll show you in a moment, and then going on. And you can see how close they are to some of the other activity areas and sport fields within the park. This tan pathway here is really on the crest of that berm and gives you great views to the water, but also great views to some of the sports fields as well. This is a view at the northern end of that, near that family flex field. So again, Day Boulevard open here, walking paths, running paths, small areas for community events and gathering, the family lawn for throwing frisbees, picnic areas, and then some of those coastal marsh landscapes. And you can see here the landscape's actually rolling and then comes up the slope and the hill to allow for the flood protection. That rolling nature, that rolling landscape gives us the opportunity to create some of these different kinds of wetland areas, but also really helps in those moments of storm surge in the future, will actually help dissipate the energy of waves that might make their way here. And then one of the most exciting new spaces on the waterfront plaza and amphitheater, directly across from the bathhouse and beach house there. Here we imagine this great space with an interactive water feature, a plaza for farmers markets or festivals, shaded seating areas, and all that. And you can see how the amphitheater steps up here. This is a space that's going to be fantastic for different kinds of events and activities. So the opportunity to have seasonal events and performances occupy this space as well. But it also importantly helps with the flood protection. So at those moments after sea level rise happens and we get a big storm and inundation from the storm, momentarily areas like this are going to double as that flood protection. And then within a day or two, things will dry up, the water will recede, and this part of the park will go back to normal operations. So really exciting to have this new activity area that really doubles as flood infrastructure. Great.
Okay, what is your favorite part about the coastal park? think a lot of people are really excited about the boardwalk feature.
And the marsh.
Being able to really walk through that coastal marsh and landscape.
Yep. The plaza and amphitheater as well. That's great. And it's really this mix of those nature spaces and the activity spaces that I think will really make this sing.
Okay, and again, I think we've got a lot of people excited about the potential for the open space here at Moakley. I know we don't have a lot of that natural landscape here, and it seems like that's what a lot of people are really interested in.
Terrific. Excellent. Okay, upcoming events. Maren, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, as Allison mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we've got a series of smaller talks that will allow us to have a more specific conversations around certain topics. So the first one being sports and active recreation on November 10th. The second one will be about community and play on November 17th. And then the third one will be about public health and the environment on the 24th. And we're going to go through a few questions here so you can get a chance to see exactly what we mean by these topics and gauge sort of your interest within these. There's a lot to dig into on this park and a lot even within these topics that we've selected. So we've got 10 answers here. We want to know what specific topics are you interested in related to sports and active recreation? Got a lot of interest in the multi-use fields and the running tracks. So we'll make sure to sort of tailor our conversations in a way that covers all of this material, but make sure we really have time to focus on those.
It's been amazing to see during the last 4 or 5 months how popular the stadium has been for all sorts of different activities and fitness classes and people just working out. It's been great. So multifunctional facilities like that are really important in times like these.
Yep, so that multi-use field is coming up on top. And then we're gonna try to move quickly here through these next ones. We could make that poll go a little bit shorter so we can get through. And then for community and play, this meeting will be really about all the different types of play that we've outlined here today. Let's see, is the poll launching? There we go. And then we also want to know about other ways that you'd want to sort of just hang out, gather, picnic, barbecue, maybe some community events at the stadium. And we know that safety and that community building and gathering spaces will also be really important. It looks like we've got a lot of concern about safety and then nature, creative, and water play coming up on top. But close behind, we've got leisure and community gathering. Yep, so safety, will definitely be sure to touch on that.
Great.
And then the topics within the environment and public health. So here we want to be able to dig a little bit deeper into what we mean by the different types of resiliency. So it's not just about coastal flooding, but it's also about stormwater, how we're planning for the future with hotter days in the summer, air quality, biodiversity, and then how that also relates to safe access to the park, and an active lifestyle. So, you know, we know that Moakley Park gets used a ton right now for running, exercising, sports, and how can we sort of better support that? Okay. It looks like safety and access is coming up again as the most important. but a lot of people really interested in these different types of sustainable practices too. So pretty wide range there.
Great.
Okay. And then which of these would you be most interested in attending? And we've got over 100 people with us here tonight. That's great. We're hoping these next series of conversations can be a smaller group, have a bit more chance for dialogue and conversation. Looks like a pretty even spread of interest in those three.
Great.
Oh, the environment and public health being the most interested. Okay, great.
That's terrific. Listen, we're going to move into Q&A for the next few minutes. I just want to thank you all for the feedback that you've been giving us tonight over the last many, many months and years. I think it's really had an impact on the way we've reconfigured things in the park, redesigned, and really added more and more program. I think the more program that we add into the park, the more people we're going to have in the park. Having more people around is going to address some of those safety issues that you're pointing out, but just giving lots more opportunities for different kinds of activities in what's really going to be a world-class park is really the goal here. So thanks for all the feedback. And Marion, I'm going to turn it over to you and the team to start with the more interactive Q&A piece. Thanks.
Yeah, so we've gotten a lot of questions here tonight. I don't think we'll be able to get to all of them in the next 20 minutes. We have a stop at 7:30, but we are committed to answering all of those questions. So we will be putting everything on the website with a response after the meeting. And I will try to, we've got a lot of questions on sort of related topics. I'll try to do my best to capture some of those and consolidate so we can get a lot of those answers. I think, Chris, I'll start with you. There's a few questions just on clarification for the design. It looks like for the city edge, people are asking, are there any bike trails? Is there play? Maybe I just missed it. And will there be a dedicated skate park? So maybe we could just go back to the city edge and talk a little bit more about those elements.
Yeah, so the whole edge of the park, you can see that blue line. So the blue line is a running track that goes all the way around the park. But between the blue line and the street are pathways for walking with lots of benches. There'll be a bike trail, again, that loops all the way around the park. And then different activity areas. So you can see there are almost these triangular shaped zones along the edge of the park that wiggle back and forth. And each of those triangles will have different kinds of activities in them. So one may have basketball and fitness and hangout spaces like this one here. Interactive play elements here. Skate park more at the southern end of the site where we really want to use the skate park to activate some of that leftover area between the stadium and the state police barracks. As we move further north, we might have a cluster that's aimed at a little bit more toward adults or older adults and elders. So leisure play, sitting areas and gardens, market community space, terraces and all that. But all of this really connected by shaded tree-lined pathways to begin to walk and stroll all the way up and down the park.
Mary,
Great.
This is Allison. I just wanted to add too that the city edge is a really exciting part of the plan in terms of welcoming the neighborhood. And so when we talk about leisure play, we're meaning, like game boards on tables and places where, community can come together and engage and connect. We're talking about interactive play that's still yet to be defined. And we're hoping to engage with you all more in the open conversations of what do you want to see with play? What is important to you? What's important to your family? What's important to your spouse? And and your neighbors. And so this really we still have a long ways to go, especially on the city edge. And so we're looking forward to those more kind of deeper dive conversations with you all.
Great. And Allison, I will give this next question to you. We got a number of questions about buildings. I'll start with this one. Are there any municipal or local nonprofits engaged in the planning and design of the community building? I'm wondering if something like a farmer's market or school field trip has a specific programmatic need.
Great. Well, that's a really great question, an exciting question. So right now, we are just showing placeholders for the buildings. And again, we're looking forward to working with the community to figure out what's the best thing for those buildings. We've heard some input so far, but we're looking to engage more. And we really see this park as a way for us to help the community connect with so many community services that are surrounding the park. Just this whole engagement process has been eye-opening, and meeting how many amazing community organizations are here. And then there's so many community members that don't even know that they have these services available to them. So we're hoping that, maybe some of these community buildings can help connect people to your organizations. And we're looking forward to kind of working with you and thinking about partnerships and thinking about ideas together. So yes, great ideas, and we want to kind of continue that conversation.
And then following up on the other building questions, there was one about the destination building, whether or not it will have a full kitchen and concession stands. And then there was a couple of questions about existing buildings within the park and on Carson Beach, if you could speak to those as well. Sure.
So I'm just going to remind everyone that this plan is will be likely a phase plan. It will happen over years. So again, the events building is just an idea that we're setting forth, and we're interested to kind of develop this further. I think there's certain things that we have to think about before we want to spend any more time designing some of these things, especially with the events, is making sure that we have partners and governance in place to make sure that these things are cared for and that they thrive. And so those are the kind of the critical pieces that we're focusing on now. But, we have talked about concessions within the park. We've talked about cafes. So all these ideas are on the table, and, we're, again, just kind of trying to push the governance piece a little bit further until we kind of figure out exactly what's going to be in those buildings. And then in terms of the Carson Beach buildings, yes, it's an amazing property, and we are working closely with DCR to think about this space as one open space and how they work together and support each other. So we certainly aren't just kind of holding a blind eye over to the Carson Beach, because we do feel like it's such an amazing asset that should be connected, and we should be thinking about it as a whole. But again, it's a state property, and so there's a little more challenges for us to coordinate, but we will continue to, and we look forward to kind of in the end coming up with an open space vision for this whole area. Great, thank you. And I think that's a good transition into a number of questions we got about Day Boulevard. I'll just read a couple of these. The removal was part of the previous design I was most excited about. Keeping it is a huge mistake. Is keeping the road a done deal? And then, how will the coastal park be connected to the beach? With Day Boulevard in the way, will there be a raised crosswalk or traffic calming measures to keep it safe for park visitors? And a couple of other questions or comments related to that, concerned about safety and traffic and how that'll interfere with the park programming. If the Parks Department could answer that.
Sure. I will start. So Day Boulevard is a state-owned boulevard. So the first plan was our vision plan. So of what we saw, the vision for the future of Moakley Park. This is more a preliminary design focused on the park, but obviously the road plays an integral part. We want that to be more of a seam instead of a barrier. So we will work with our state partners on solutions that they have as they improve that roadway. We don't know what the state's plan is yet, whether DCR or MassDOT for that roadway, but we will continue to partner with them, and we want to make sure we have safe access to the park. So whether it is raised crosswalks or whatever traffic calming measures that need to be put in place by the state, we will partner with them to make sure that everyone has that safe experience when they traverse back and forth.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, we've also gotten a lot of questions about the number of fields, their location, and how we've sort of come up with where we are in the park. I think it looks like people are really interested in rugby, baseball, and tennis courts. So maybe Chris or Amy, one of you could speak to sort of how we landed at the sort of formation where we are and how we have built in some multifunctionality within those.
Sure thing. You know, it's tricky to try to retrofit a park and then take these really big features and find a way to deal with both ideal orientations and then nestling them into a park where we're also retaining as many trees as possible. So, you know, starting south to north, you know, obviously the football stadium, track and field will be a refurbishment of the existing stadium that's already there. So, you know, it's located there because it is close to the T, which will also help when it comes to that facility being able to host performances and events. So having that T accessible is really, really important. The Little League and softball field, some of the things that we heard from a lot of the folks who deal with athletics and sports was the real strong desire to have this cloverleaf so that you can host a tournament here. And this configuration really helps a lot for how, when you're running multiple games at the same time, you can have a central area for the administration of that tournament to happen. It's also a great configuration just as a spectator because you can be watching your kid on one field, but when in between innings, you might be watching the game next door. So that configuration and figuring out how to find the right space for it in between, again, the flood protection requirements and some of the existing trees ended up in a fairly central place within the park. Same thing with the soccer fields, a little bit further to the north, but the idea of having multiple fields here so that they can be used for soccer, for lacrosse, for rugby. They can actually be used, they're at the same level. So you could have one big community event or gathering that occupies both those fields. But the idea that, again, it's clustered with some of the other activities so that you really feel an energy when you're there. So if you're there for a game of pickup basketball or tennis with a friend and a soccer game's going on and a rugby game's going on, you just feel this great energy from those things being together. And then the baseball field fit really nicely at the top of the park. The orientation is ideal up there. We can surround it with some great spectating hills. And that's where we take advantage of that flood berm. So on the back side of that, we have some nice lawn areas and seating areas so people can have shaded lawn areas to overlook the baseball field. And again, it's trying to fit all the different pieces together in a way that makes sense, in a way that retains as many trees as possible, and also retains that key idea from the vision plan of these 4 rooms for more intense sports to happen, surrounded by a lot of other activity. So if you're there to attend a game or to be part of a game, it's not such a long walk to go find something else to do. Or if you're there to do something else, you might stumble across a game that's going on and watch an inning or two or watch a little bit of soccer to pass your time.
And Allison, did you want to add anything there?
Sure. Yeah. It's really interesting. So this the last 2 years, we've heard from so many sports enthusiasts and coming out and expressing how important their particular sport is, whether it's rugby or tennis or baseball or kickball, skateboarding. And, you know, I think the challenge that we face is that we are trying to come up with a plan that meets as many needs as possible. So without losing some of the excellence that our sports fields offer. So, you know, we're trying to make sure that we have as much multifunctionality across the park as possible, whether it's with sports or whether it's with community gathering spaces or play, so that we are meeting as many needs as possible. And I hear you guys when you say, why don't we have more tennis? Why don't we have a dedicated rugby field or fields? We want to have tournaments, or why don't we have 2 baseball fields for tournaments? And I know those are all really important to those individual sports. And so we're trying to figure out, as we dive in deeper, how to think about these spaces by that are multifunctional, that can then provide access to several different sports, but also, you know, meet the need that they need to meet too, and not compromise some of the use too much for a certain sport. So I think this is a great conversation that we can have going into the sports focus meeting, and kind of talk a little bit about, like, how can we overlay things to get more use and diversify the use within those recreational rooms. And so I look forward to kind of diving in a little bit deeper about those specifics. And I know there's lots of questions about the dimensions of the fields. And I'm, you know, happy to jump into those conversations too in the sports focus meeting, because those are really detailed and we're still working out some of those, but we do have answers for some of those. So hopefully you can join us at the next November meeting.
And 2 other quick points on the sports fields. One, grading is going to be, stormwater drainage is going to be vastly improved in the parks. So the fields are going to be more usable, and the lighting is going to extend the use of those fields into the evening hours as well. So overall, you'll have extended days and you won't have the interruption of flooded fields.
Okay, and we have time for just a few more questions. Oh, someone.
I was just going to add one, the fields question, and just point out that getting to the day has taken a lot of time and a lot of input from the public, but we've also had input from city councilors, which has been tremendously helpful. We're grateful for his project. Councilor Flaherty was here tonight as well. So thank you to all of the electeds who have been great supporters of this work and helping us.
Great, thank you. And we've just got time for a couple of more questions. We've got one here that I know we've been talking about a lot as a team. It's really challenging, so I'll send this over to the Parks Department, either Allison or Ryan. How is the city going to take action to prevent certain negative neighborhood ramifications, increased rent prices, and green gentrification?
Liza, can you answer this question?
Sure. How is the city going to take action to prevent certain negative neighborhood ramifications, i.e. increases in rent prices and green gentrification?
Yeah, I think that's a real, it's a concern, because it's something that people have seen happen in other cities with introduction of new parks in parts of the city where there wasn't access to open space before. And access to open space, we know, is important, and it's one of the factors that makes living in a city so spectacular. When you have a park nearby, it makes your life more, well-rounded and healthy. You can connect with people in your community. So we know that matters. Moakley's here, and Moakley have been in existence for a long time. We have large residential populations in stable housing scenarios right around the park that we know will greatly benefit from this park improvement. So Moakley is not the same context that we see in some other cities where new parks are introduced in places where there hasn't been open space before. I think something to think about is that, we shouldn't put ourselves in a position where we want to have, we think we can't have both stable housing and a nice park. We shouldn't have to choose, right? We should be able to invest in open space in a way that makes it better for the people who live closest to it and have access to it so that they can benefit from this improved parkland. And really listen to what people are looking for, which is the process that we've been going through with this project, so that this park is neighbors. And then just adding to that, there are departments in the city that are really focused on neighborhood stability and housing stability. Are two of the departments that are leading that kind of work, and Parks works closely with them and is definitely supportive of that work. And is always looking to partner to advance that.
Great, thank you, Liza. And so I think there's a lot of great suggestions here. I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks. I wish I could go through all of these, but a lot of good ideas about different types of program we could integrate, swings and pickleball and ice skating, 4th of July events. But it seems like few of these, Chris, would be good ones for you to speak to, like how we're imagining the stadium to function. Someone's asking about sort of attracting the Boston Pops or fireworks for the 4th of July, like the Hat Shell and the Charles.
Sounds
and
great.
Then let me see, there's another one asking about the stadium and if it will be for just football or available for other sports.
Yeah, we do imagine it being a multi-use field, so that it can be available for multiple sports. It'll be available for fitness activities and fitness classes. Of course, the track is there. I go down there a lot myself. I run and bike because our office isn't so far away, and I've been seeing people do all sorts of things. One guy had some barbells out there one day with his dog. A woman was dragging a big tire behind her, running around the track. All that stuff we want to continue. I've seen a lot of people running up and down the stairs, so that's great. So having that kind of activity tied into a whole series of running loops is really important. And then what we'll show you at the future meetings is how that can then be used for other types of events and activities and performances. So we are imagining that you could have a concert there. We are imagining that you could have special events like fireworks, but we're actually designing it so that there are probably different configurations for some of those activities. And we'll start to detail that in the coming weeks so that you can begin to see that. But the idea of having, formal steps, lawn terraces, and sloping lawns in combination is one of the ideas that helps to make it flexible. And then you can choose whether you want to sit in a proper seat or whether you want to just hang out on a blanket on the lawn. So there's a lot of opportunity for that.
Okay, and I think unfortunately we are out of time, but I see that there, like I said, there's a lot of really good input here, and I hope that you all will join us for the upcoming meetings where we'll be able to have sort of a deeper dive in things like the skate park and the running tracks and the play areas. Like I see that we've got a lot of questions about those. I wish I could get to all of them, but looks like we should wrap up. Allison, did you want to say any final words? Let people know exactly when we'll be able to distribute the questions and recordings.
Sure, yeah. So in the beginning, I mentioned that this meeting is recorded and we'll be posting on our website. You can just type in City of Boston Moakley Park and it's the top choice. You can go to our website and find the recording. You can find kind of the plan there and the old vision plan as well. And then you'll also find the questions and answers that we'll post up there. And we're hoping to get that to that in the next week or so. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time tonight. This was a lot of information kind of to digest. It's really an overview, and we're looking forward to the next 3 meetings to get to all of your questions and have it more of a conversation, because it's really hard. Sometimes I imagine that you have follow-up questions to our answers. So I want to give you the ability to do that. So again, thank you so much for coming. Again, I want to second Liza and the community organizations and the electeds and the sports groups have been incredible and reaching out to us and engaging with us and making sure that we hear people's voices, and we want to continue to hear your voices. And we also want to make sure that the people that you see that are maybe missing from this conversation are aware about Moakley Park and help us connect with them. So again, my email is allison.perlman@boston.gov. That's ALLISON.PERLMAN@boston.gov. Please reach out to me and let me know who's missing and who you think that we should be talking to. So this is very much a community-driven process. And I think that we're really excited about the plans and how much work we've done, and we're excited to continue this process with you all. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Amy, I left you as a host so you can just keep pulling the stuff that you need to pull.
Great, thank you. I think I'm sweating.
I didn't realize there was so many that hadn't made it in.
There's so, I'm like watching the number go. I'm like typing as fast as I can, and like the number is like staying the same.
No, I don't think you've seen. I rolled back and I told you you can stay on. Oh, there you go. You rolled back.
No. No. I mean the number of questions.
Oh,
Even though I'm
yeah,
like
no.
ticking them off, like they keep going.
No worries.
Good.
All right. You guys will be fine from here.
Do you still have attendees on?
Thank you.
Yeah, we have a few.
Okay, I'm just making sure that dive into conversation.
Are we still
No,
broadcasting, or are we now behind the scenes?
No, it's still broadcasting. It doesn't let you go back to broadcast mode.
I thought we were, sorry. I thought we were not broadcasting.
No, there's still 13 people still on.
Great.
Let's start.
Okay, so maybe we should regroup tomorrow.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
It was a great presentation.
Hey, take the rest of the night off, all right?
Oh, thank you.
Amy, I'm gonna log off now, but you'll still be fine to keep pulling because you're a host now.
Okay, great. Chloe, if you're still here and you could assist.
I am. I'd be happy to assist.
That would be great. If you just start from the bottom, and what I'm doing is each time I'm just saying answer live, so then it goes to having been answered.
Okay. Answer live. Got it.
Can we just dismiss all the ones that say like great job everyone and the ones that don't have questions?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Hi, Grace. I kicked out everybody except for Grace and Petra.
Good.
Okay.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, when you said start at the bottom, you meant start at the bottom of the Q&A, not the Excel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not answering the same question
Got it. I'll
or
just
noting.
also type at the bottom of the document and I can sort.
Yeah, we
once
can
I'm finished.
organize it later. Now,
Sure. Yeah, no technical issues. Chris is talking to me. I don't know if you guys can hear.
Yeah.
I got a message from Allison at 6:01 that said was hoping for Cuban. Do you think?
oh, the music. I'm guessing she meant the music. It was like,
I was like, was she talking about takeout to her husband? Did I get the wrong message?
All right, I'm going to
Alice,
hop
like-
off.
bye, Julie. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Great job tonight.
Thanks, Julie.
Wonderful job moderating and picking good questions, and really good job.
Oh, man, a lot of pressure. It's like I want to ask all the easy ones, but I shouldn't.
You did such a great job.
All right, thanks for your help, Julie.
Bye, guys. Talk to you later.
Amy, I was trying to message you. I didn't realize how swamped you were with comments. Like, it didn't seem like there were that many in the Excel, so I wasn't paying attention.
Excuse me. I've got this last one about the hours.
Oh, actually, I just started.
Oh.
Just define. Okay. Also, sorry, I just realized I wasn't putting them into answered live. I put them into dismissed, but hopefully that still shows up on the report.
Yeah, I think it might. Did you put their names next to it?
Oh, oops, no, I didn't finish doing that.
I grabbed Luann. She and Dennis must be related. They asked like half of the questions that were there. Oh my God.
And you can't copy and paste.
Exactly.
That was what was hurting so bad. I don't know if you already said that. Yeah, you
I didn't
physically type.
I was like, I basically did nothing but like frantically type for that entire time.
Oh no.
Like, when you were like, maybe Chris or Amy could answer this, I was like, no.
I had messaged you directly because Allison was messaging me about it. Like, she wanted a joint answer, and I wasn't. Anyways, I thought you might have had a little bit more background on vision plan stuff, but it's fine.
Seemed to work out. Yeah, that was a lot to take note of very quickly.
Like, as soon as they started coming, like there was like 1, 2, I was like, oh, this is good. And I got to like 7, and then it never got lower than 7, and then it was like 19 at one point. I was like,
I wonder if Allison realized that you couldn't copy and paste. I feel like she might not have known.
I remember Alice saying this previously about she was doing it.
Oh, let me how can I stop my my background here?
Go to video.
Yeah. Chris is standing here, but you can't see.
Maren, go to video and go choose, and then just say none.
Uh-uh.
There we go.
All right. Oh, it's so nice we can see his arm.
No, it's just it's Grace and Petra.
Yeah, they're technically still in here. I mean, they can't talk to us.
Nice job. That was good.
Good stuff.
Good work, Chris.
No, Allison thinks it went pretty smooth and she wants to regroup on Friday.
I think we should have wine and beer readily available.
During the meeting?
Well, up to the side.
And a coffee mug.
Everybody, good night.
Thank you.
All right.
I don't know if you can hear us or if I'm just yelling at you, Maren.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I always forget that I have.
I think I'm just probably yelling in your ear. Okay.
Okay, I think we got all of them, yeah.
I think we did.
One guy kept asking these like very involved questions,
Mm-hmm.
and it was
Oh my
Tim
gosh.
Wilson, someone named Tim Wilson, which I thought was, at first I was like, this the Tim Wilson that used to work for us, is he just like messing? And then they weren't funny enough. I was like, no, it's not.
Also, there was a question from an Alice Brown. It's like,
Alice asked like 4 questions.
oh, she did? Oh, okay. I just
Well,
only,
yeah.
I only caught one of them. So that actually is the.
I assume it was Alice,
Right.
but I don't know.
That was my assumption. I saw that.
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. That
Yeah.
was fun.
Good work. Thank you, Maren, for moderating. That was good. Well done.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you, Chloe, for revising the presentation
You
maybe
did it.
79 times.
Today. I think I exported 5 separate times today.
I don't know if you know or where Amy, like Allison's been like texting me and calling me with just like minor edits, like just lots of that in the last few days. So I just stopped saying it was final because we knew.
Like, this is the current presentation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Great. See you all.
Talk, everybody.
Thank you for your labor, Amy.
It was a good finger workout. Mental,
Talk to you guys.
a good mental game.
Yeah.